Ellie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us about how you developed the world of Lickety Pop.
Sure. So it came at a time, like you mentioned, where the world became a little bit too heavy for me. Learned in life generally is that when life gets loud, our instinct is to get louder. We
Hmm.
we have more rules, more control, more doing. And that's what I did for a very long time. I felt overwhelmed. I did what a lot of caregivers do, especially women. We work harder, we organize more, we add more structure, we try to outpace the
Yes.
chaos. But there came a time or a moment where I realized that I had become the loudest version of myself
Mm.
and I had no capacity left to get louder. So I went in the opposite direction, very unfamiliar. I went out of control and loud and I went into the quiet.
Mhm.
And I was uncertain. I was nervous about that space, but I realized I could sit in it and feel safe. It wasn't a
Yeah.
fix all. And from there, Lickety Pop grew. I've always loved to write, and I felt that in my life I never had that creativity outlet. So, what started as a survival mode where I created a candy colored, pastel colored world where everything was soft, no sharp edges, because I already had
Hmm.
enough of that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I could go there, and anything that happened in Lickety Pop, it always ended the same way on a gumdrop hill, overlooking the stars, resting peacefully. And so I explored that world and I came back to it time and again where the real life became too loud. I could come back here and whatever I threw at it, I always ended up the same way
Mm.
on that gumdrop hill.
And realistically, this is what you were doing in your working life as therapy for yourself.
Yes, I don't want to speak for everyone, but we've all been in places where we're told to do this to help us with therapy or to do that. I was told to journal. I was told, and
Mm.
sometimes it works and it doesn't. But for me, when I had nowhere else to go, this helped. I could explore the boundaries. I didn't have to perform in such a way. I wasn't expected to react or to put a performance for whoever was watching me at that time. I could genuinely be me. And so my mind felt enough or relaxed enough to create this world. And then the characters came to life. And then the little places and locations. It's really such a fun world. So many crazy things happen. I call it cozy chaos. Mistakes happen, magic spells backfire. We have marshmallow moles stuck in swamps and we get them out. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we always end up in that same safe spot.
I can relate. As I mentioned to you before, our life as grandparents raising grandchildren was a sharp diversion from the direction we were heading in. My husband and I had found each other. We were ready to retire together, to travel, but instead it was the other way around. I want to know what you think about that permission to bring magic back into our lives when we've lost a lot of it. Why we need to rely upon our imagination and those candy colored worlds as much as the children do to avoid burnout.
I'm so glad you said that. It took me a long time to give myself permission to live
Mm.
in this candy colored world. We have expectation that reality is what needs us, that we need to be in the reality. So a fantasy world is not productive. And so I think that one of the taboos that we all live in is that the caregivers don't get that. We're not allowed to have that rest or that imagination or that quiet time. And so I feel that we do need it. We have to give ourselves permission that we are using this also lickety pop, but it could be really anything that soothes you, not as an escape, but as a restoration. So much of the household's mental load is invisible to us. It weighs very heavily. We don't speak it out loud, but we live it every single day. And so, imagination to me isn't avoidance, it's how we remember who we are when everything else feels like duty. It gives us a place to rest our nervous system when real life doesn't give us that chance. It doesn't allow us to pause. So, I didn't build this world crazily enough for kids at the time. I built it for adults to survive in. And it just
Mm,
so happened that it's a perfect analogy, or it resonates very deeply with adults and caregivers with their kids. It's a
mhm.
way to connect. And we both take different things away from this world. Adults take a completely different meaning than what the kids do.
It occurred to me as we're speaking that a lot of these children that have been through trauma create imaginary worlds for themselves because that is where they heal the most. And when we can connect with their world, then we can find a common language to help them heal and for them to express themselves. I know that my granddaughter is currently being reunited for the first time with her birth mother. And that's created a very difficult situation in her mind. And these poor children who are young having to do things that are so hard. She has struggled with being, on the one hand, very happy to be reunited with her mother, but on the other hand, to process the information of, oh, this is the person who abused me. This is the person who neglected me. Her mother is taking all the right steps to be healthy and have a better relationship with her children. She's going to have to prove herself. There isn't a long period of trust there. So, as I'd mentioned to you before, working with her therapist and finding a way to talk about a world that we can both connect in. It may not be real for either one of us, but it is a way to communicate. We can use our imagination, I think, much more effectively sometimes than we can with real world language. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. It's harder to say the truth. I'll say that in a generic way when
Hmm.
it's real world, because it becomes real and
Mm,
emotions, defensiveness,
yeah,
past comes into play.
yeah.
And this fantasy, this lickety pop on the surface seems very fun. It's a really soft, gentle, bubble blowing dragon who saves a marshmallow mole. They become friends, and it's so much fun. Pastel colors, a stirrup swamp. Who thinks of this? But underneath, there are so many layers to this world that I think directly relates to what you said. You are connecting on a level that's safe. There's predictability in the stories. If I can say that it kind of mirrors a real day life. We start hopeful, the story starts slow and hopeful, and then the real world comes. Busy, loud, noise, tantrums, spills, things go wrong. And it happened in the story. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, we all end up in the same place. And I hope that we all end up in the same place where we can sit and rest, take a deep breath. And if we're fortunate enough to have a loved one next to us, that's where the connection comes. And just to, if I'm okay to jump back on the trauma aspect, a lot of the book, because for me, this is what I needed, and I feel this is what we can benefit. We all need predictability in a safe place. And
Hmm.
so every single story ends on that gumdrop hill. So I know no matter where that day takes me, I will still end up there. So for kids, no matter where the day takes them, no matter what scary things happen or what bad things happen or unpredictable, we are always going to end up in a safe place, safe in your grandparents' arms, in your caregiver's arms, reading a book together.
Hmm.
And to that is what builds the resilience and the connection, because you have to wear a lot of hats during the day.
And if nothing else, they can have comfort and stability in another world because this one sets up much more barriers for us.
Yes, 100%. This world doesn't change. Lickety Pop is
Right.
always safe.
So when we talk about activities that children do, you talked about more volume, and things were loud in the house. And then I know I get upset when it gets like that. And then I get louder and more discipline comes out of my mouth. But a lot of the games that kids play and the way that they escape are very overstimulating, not very relaxing. I'm thinking about online games. Why do you think our overstimulated children need content and environments that don't demand more of our nervous systems. Lickety Pop is a world that is gentle, soothing. I imagine it's slower paced than the real world.
Yes. You know, the loud and the fast that we have. We live in a world right now where everything is at our fingertips. And so we have kids that watch a video, a minute later, watch another one and another one. The expectation is more. And that's fine. But Lickety Pop is there for us to simply say soft and slow. And that tells our nervous system in a real way that we're safe.
Mhm.
And safety is where growth happens. Soft and safe allows us to breathe. There are no expectations. We're not fixing, we're not reacting, we're not running around for the next fix. And that's why I believe it allows children just to be in a quiet moment on themselves or with their caregivers or companions, and they can just be together. Because they're so surrounded by noise all the time, it does create a barrier or a distance. So I feel that slowing down and allows us to reconnect with ourselves and with each other authentically. And Lickety Pop does follow that. Yes, we have cozy chaos, but it's a world where it slows down on the emotional level, on the relationship level. Maybe the activities are fast and crazy. We do have some stories coming up where Mooch will wear edible pants because he wants to have snacks all day. And of course, that can become a little bit of a disaster. Things like that. But we're not talking about in relationships. And that's where I really feel Lickety Pop will help. It's
Mhm.
genuine.
Mhm. You know, as caregivers, I think our first instincts are to take care of everyone else. And my thoughts are, oh, I want to buy this book for my children, my grandchildren. Why do you think we need that imagination in that world, that candy colored world of lickety pop, as much as the children do to avoid burnout?
100%. We need it because it gives us the opportunity to connect with ourselves and to take a moment for ourselves. A lot of the time when we think we're taking a moment for ourselves, such as having a cup of coffee at the table or sitting and reading a book, we haven't really escaped in a way that allows our mind to escape the mental load that we're living in. Yes, I love a cup of coffee by the table. I love to sit and read a book. But we're in our real world right now. We really are. We still have the kids in the background or our partners in the background. We don't get to escape. And Lickety Pop is such a different world. We haven't seen it before. We're not escaping into a book that has real life connection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have marshmallow moles in real life. We don't have candy colored. I wish we could, but we don't. So this is a escape where our mind can escape, but we can also feel safe because for caregivers, we don't always feel that we are doing the right thing sometimes. Sometimes we feel that we're failing in a way or that we're outdated in what is that. So I feel that going into a world in Lickety Pop, there's nothing wrong with what we've done throughout the day. We can end it in a beautiful story, connect with them, but feel good about ourselves as well. So we also need that karma connection. And Lickety Pop at the end of every story has a poem specifically for whatever message that story is. And the very first book is about kindness and friendship, but truly it's about connection. And that's what grandparents and kids need. That's what caregivers need. At the end of the story might be for children, but the poem at the end, I have made it specifically for adults. And I think it will resonate with them more than the kids. So that's why I say this book truly is for both generations.
I have to say, my husband loves watching the kids' movies and Disney as much as he enjoys regular TV when he watches it. Why is it we feel so much guilt or shame when we admit that we need to escape into these imaginary worlds?
I know, and it's just built into how we're perceived in society. I feel we've been taught, and I may be generalizing, that rest must be earned, that
Mm,
imagination looks like rest. And so we're a little bit ashamed of it. We think that choosing quiet is radical. It's laziness, it's not real
mhm.
life parenting. And this was the hardest part for me. This is what generated me to create this world. Reality needed me. How dare I step away into fantasy for that moment? How can I? But then that belief is what burnt me out. And when I stepped back, I realized that imagination is not avoiding reality. It's how we rest so we can face that day in the best way possible for us and for the people who rely on us. So when we parallel our needs with our children's needs and the kids' needs, we realize we both need this. It's not exclusive to one person or one generation.
If you went back to the CEO role that you had before you began writing, how would you redesign the office space or the classrooms or the doctor's office, the dentist's office?
I love that you asked this question because the very first thing that I did, I still have my CEO office because it's where I'm the most productive. And the very first thing that I did when I went into Lickety Pop and I love this world is I threw out my old high black back office chair. I don't know if you
Mm,
can notice
I
this, but
can
I
see your
I
chair.
bought this most comfortable pink fluffy chair that spoke to me. And I
Yeah.
threw away all conventions and I bought what made me feel good in this space. And the other thing
Mm,
that I did was I decluttered. Easy to forget what your eyes see on an everyday basis because you
mhm,
become blind to it. You skim over it. So this was a very work heavy space. And for classrooms, especially for kids, a lot of classrooms have harsh lighting. They have set spaces for learning, and we have a kid space for toys. But the first thing I did is I changed the lighting for the moods that I was in. If I was in a high stress meeting, of course, I need a certain light. And for kids, some aspects of learning need a certain lighting.
mhm,
However, I would have an option for not harsh lighting, softer lighting, cozy. I also created a very small space for a cozy, safe sanctuary. I think this would be perfect for anyone, no matter what space you have, your office or a
mm,
classroom. I would create a cozy corner, true sanctuary. I don't throw homework. I don't throw work there. I don't throw loud toys or TVs or noise. There's no demands. I can sit if I wanted to and be totally safe and quiet. And I feel that we all need that, especially kids that don't have stability right now or they have a
mhm.
fear of uncertainty. A safe, predictable routine would be amazing. And a little cozy corner like that, I think would help.
Thanks, Ellie, so much.
Thank you so much, Laura. It was a privilege to be on.